Howdy y'all, Fuzzy Biker here in the mighty mini-tropolis of Marnie, Iowa at Baxter Cycle, and look what they've laid out for us today. Well, this is something different, isn't it? Haven't seen anything like this before on the channel. What's going on? This is a Honda XR150L, whopping 12.5 horsepower, and you and I, are gonna go take that hot rod for a ride. Wahoo! 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Oh yeah, hear the power? 12.5 horsepower. 282 pounds, I think that's 124 kilograms, 126 kilograms, 126 let's say. 7.1 inches of travel on the front, that's about 180 millimeters. 5.6 on the rear, I believe, that's 150 millimeters. 9.6 inches of ground clearance. I do not remember what that is in millimeters. Let's see how she does in the spin test here. 53.5 inch wheelbase, I think is what I quoted you. That's 1360 millimeters, I think. My gosh, she seems to do pretty well. I like it. I like it. This would be a great learner bike. Seat height is 32.5 inches. That's 825 millimeters, I believe. Not too bad. She's a fun one. She's a fun one. These little bikes are just a grin. A friend of mine just bought one exactly like this except black. I think it's an interesting looking motorcycle. A very large front fender. It's amazing how quiet it is. That's a real mind-blowing thing. But I guess, you know, when you only have 149 cc's and a modern muffler, she feels a little stilty, but you know, you get used to that real quick. She's pretty tall in the air with a relatively short wheelbase. The front brake is a 240 millimeter disc. Look at that. That's not too bad. The rear is a drum brake. I think it's a 110 millimeter drum. I grew up on drum brakes. I love them, on the back anyway. On the front I always want a disc. 5-speed transmission. Pretty snappy 5-speed transmission. I like it. Okay, let's do the spin test here. See what we get. No traffic coming. Look at that, look at that, look at that. Wahoo, wahoo, a new winner for the spin test, I think. If you're ever in Marnie, Iowa, get yourself down here to the Derailed Grill right there. Good eats, good eats. You know what, we never go to this road back here, so let's an extra spin. And let's take it on some gravel here. Never been back here. Hey, here's the street, Madison Street. This bike has 0 electronics. Even the speedometer is cable driven off the front wheel. No ABS, no electronic fuel injection. I think the ignition is electronic, and that's about it. It's a carbureted motorcycle with a 22 millimeter, that's less than 1 inch, 22 millimeter carburetor, which means it has choke, a manual choke. It's an awesome campground bike. What a grin. Brakes are decent. There's no ABS or anything like that on something like this. Check down here, we've got an analog speedometer, odometer, and then a trip meter in the bottom of that. Up here in this area here where it says XR, we've got the blinkers. See the light flashing? A high-low, there it is. And then a neutral light. As far as controls go, on this side we've got the high-low switch, turn signals here, and a horn. Very cute, very cute. And on the other side we've got a kill switch and a start switch. She's kind of got a little rambunctious streak in her. I weigh about 220 pounds, and this little hot rod is doing that just fine. Let's go take it on the highway and see what we can get out of it. I'm wondering if we'll break 60. Third gear. Fourth gear. Fifth gear. The fuel tank is 2.8 gallons, but this thing is supposed to get 124 miles a gallon. Can you believe that? 2.8 gallons in liters, I think, is something like 10.6 liters. Hey, we're going 54 miles an hour uphill. Okay, we are topping the hill at about 48 miles an hour. Very good handling. It's not twitchy or anything. It seems very stable. I like it. 63. Holy moly. I think I'm going to back off. I'm going to call it 62, 63. So seating position, I'm sitting about straight up and down. The bars are low, but my arms are kind of comfortable right where they're at. Kind of a good width between them. My feet are below my knees, and my heels are probably even with my knees, maybe a little back, but they're not high up. They're down low. And the engine is so narrow that my heels almost feel like they're touching. I know they're not. Hey, a little power shift there. Not too bad, huh? Not too bad. Nice little rocket. I like the way it feels. The seat itself is small but comfortable, I'd say. All right, this time we are cresting the hill at about 45 miles an hour. Below us is the mighty mini-tropolis of Marne, Iowa. Look at that sprawling expanse. Wahoo! The speed is pouring on now. 55, 57, 58, 59. Holy moly! 60 miles an hour. What a rocket ship. What a rocket ship. I like it. It's a very well-mannered bike. Pretty disciplined. Does about what you want it to do. No surprises. It's certainly not quick. It's not slow either. I wouldn't want to ride this very far out of town, and I certainly wouldn't take it down any kind of a 4-lane at all. But it is 149 cc's. You know, it does pretty well for that. We have made our way back to Baxter Cycle in Marne, Iowa. BaxterCycle.com. Let's pull this thing over and get the camera out and take a look at what we got. All right, my friends, that was a fun little ride, wasn't it? Check that hot rod out. Let's go over the specs right quick. 149 cc's, air-cooled, overhead cam, 2 valves per cylinder. Look at that. It's a carbureted bike with a 22 millimeter, that's less than 1 inch carburetor. That means it does have a choke. Let's see if we can find that right quick. This is all old technology. Yeah, right down here, right there. 5-speed transmission. This motorcycle could have been right off a bike I had in the 70s. You know, except that that would have had a kickstart. 9.5 to 1 compression. About 12.5 horsepower. I could not find a torque number for it. Front disc is a 240 millimeter. Right there. Oh, 2 piston. The suspension is interesting. These are 31 millimeter tubes. That's about as thin as I've ever seen them. But look at the amount of travel here. 7.1 inches of travel. That's 180 millimeters. Isn't that amazing? Of course, that beautiful tire, that's a 90-90-19. The rear has got a 110-90-17, a little bit wider. A drum brake with a 110 millimeter drum. I love drum brakes. It's got a monoshock. That's something that would not have been around back in the day. And that's got 5.9 inches of travel. That's 150 millimeters. This hot rod's got a 53.5 inch wheelbase. I love short wheelbase bikes. And this one's pretty tall, but it was still a lot of fun to ride. That's 1,359 millimeters, 9.6 inches of ground clearance. Now this is the correct number, 244 millimeters of ground clearance. I mean, look at that. You could build a doghouse under there. It's just amazing, you know. The weight of this hot rod, the monstrous number, the mass, oh, it's so heavy. 282 pounds wet. That's 128 kilograms. 200. I have weighed more than this motorcycle at certain points in my life. And that's with a full tank of gas. That's wet weight. You know, amazing. 2.8 gallon gas tank, and it's supposed to get 128 miles a gallon, 124 miles a gallon. So what's that, 300 some odd mile range? I mean, that's insane, isn't it? And it even locks. It's a neat little bike. It's a really neat little motorcycle. Cable drive for the speedometer right there. That certainly is old school, you know. The bike has virtually no electronics other than electronic ignition and, you know, the headlight, blinkers, things like that, taillight. Bikes like this are awesome to learn on. You know, they go anywhere. They do just about everything. Let's look at the body work on this. So, you know, it's got this kind of robot head. That is kind of like a robot head, isn't it? What are those transformers? Kind of looks like one of those, doesn't it? It's got this massive fender. That's, you know, if you took that off, you might gain a mile or two an hour. And look at these kind of sweep out pieces here. There's the tank right there, a metal tank. Very interesting. The pipe comes up under there, out here. Got the nice rack on the back. Seat, it's got rear foot pegs, so you can do dual passengers. I think it's a good looking bike. You know, I love all motorcycles, so this is, you know, this is a really neat toy to me. This is a beautiful thing. Locking gas cap. These are my Royal Enfield Alpine Star gloves that I'm very proud of. We'll put those over yonder. Over here, it looks like this was added, this bar maybe. I don't know if that came factory or not, and this says Tusk on it. It's got mud guards for the hands. Are these branded? Yeah, these are bark busters. Bark busters. That's pretty amazing. Well, this bike is really off to a good start. I like it. Hey, if you were interested in a bike like this, or a newer used Triumph, or newer used Royal Enfield, or a classic British bike, something like this. This is a 57 Bullet, it says. Get yourself over to baxtercycle.com and check out what they got in stock. They also have all the accessories, all the parts, everything you could ever possibly imagine. They have the largest classic vintage British bike parts collection in North America. It's just, they have warehouses full of this place, several buildings full of it. Absolutely amazing. Anyway, baxtercycle.com, give those guys a call, tell them Fuzzy Biker sent you. Now, it's a rainy day here. I've driven through a little bit of rain already. I think I'm gonna hop on that bike and see if I can find some more rain. Life is good. By that bike, I mean the red one behind this bike. Wahoo!